Put that coffee down. Coffee's for closers only.
Oh, have I got your attention now?
Hey, guys, welcome back.
What's up?
Damn, Gavin jumps in right on time.
We made it. Technical difficulties today, huh? For everybody.
Oh, wow.
That's right. That's right. Well, guys, welcome back to another episode of Coffee with Closers Live. Today, we have a special guest, Corey Geary. Corey is actually the first guest to be featured twice on Coffee with Closers. Corey, we're so happy to have you. Welcome and good morning, my friend.
Good morning, man. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm truly blessed, bro, for you guys inviting me on. This is awesome.
Hell yeah. I love it.
All right, how are you, bud? Good to see you. Sorry,
Good, man.
I was just hopping on here. We should change your name to the Iceman. It's I'm gonna dig into this. Like, forget real estate. I got better things to talk about.
I love it, man. Yeah, the
pretty,
plunges have been
amazing.
game changer.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing stuff. So good to have you on. Good to see you. This one, guys, is gonna be a big episode. I've known Corey now for a few years. We met in Nashville at John Martinez event years ago. Originally, and then you've literally. I remember you were doing. It was kind of amazing. Like, we talk about going all in, right? And when I think about going all in, I think that's kind of what I would say you did. And we haven't spoke about this. It's just from seeing you on social media, things like that. I mean, we've hung out at different events, but it was pretty amazing. You used to do dealing and stuff, right? Like poker.
I was a blackjack dealer.
And I remember you leaving your job. I remember it. And you did a video and you were going all in, and you've literally gone all in and doing amazing things, tons of deals nationwide. We're going to come on to all of that. And it's just been good. So I think people are going to get a lot of knowledge on the creative deals you're doing, but also, applying yourself and kind of going all in, which was pretty amazing. Sorry, Dave, I've just absolutely just gone off on one here. But anyway, good to have you, bud. If you are watching, guys, Coffee with Closers every single week, make sure you like, subscribe, share the post. We want to get as many eyes as possible. Ask your questions. We're going to be selfish to start with and start asking Corey questions, but then you are going to be getting involved. Matt's in the house, VIP Matt. I didn't think anything different than
That's right.
have him here.
Same without Matt.
Yeah. So awesome. Anyway, let's roll.
Awesome, guys. Awesome. So, Corey, tell us a little bit about, back in the day when you were blackjack dealing. What was going through your mind, man?
All kinds of stuff, bro. So so I was a blackjack dealer for 17 years, man. I got way too complacent in that job just because it was an easy job, working 6 hours a night, making 140 grand a year because you make a lot of money from tips. It's very similar to being like a bartender. And, it's the party lifestyle. So I just got way complacent. But the one thing I was able to do throughout dealing blackjack was save up some money. And so I had 150 grand saved up. And the girlfriend at the time knew I had this money saved up. And we used to watch Flip or Flop all the time with Tarek Al-Musa. And, one of these times, she was a part-time realtor also. And then she was a part-time blackjack dealer. And we're watching the show one night and she's like, "Why don't you flip a house so I can list it?" And I was like, "I don't know. Why don't I flip a house? It looks easy enough. 30 minutes, I make $80,000. This could be the thing I could do with my as a side hustle with my money I have." Literally the next morning, I'm running around the neighborhood on my morning run, and I see one of those signs that says "Fix and flip, buy price 250, ARV 350," or something like that. I stopped on my run, called that phone number, bought the house, took me 6 months, and I made $8,000. So it was, have you guys heard of New Western Realty? Not New Western, Net Worth Realty.
Yeah.
It was from those guys. They're nationwide, similar to New Western. And that was my very first deal I ever did. And since then, I did a second deal. I started going to local RIAs, bought a second deal, made 20 grand on a flip from a local wholesaler. Third deal, I bought 4 houses all at once. Kind of thought I knew what I was doing. Of course, I didn't. I didn't vet the new contractor we brought on board for those four houses, and he took us to the cleaners. And I had a partner at the time, and we lost $250,000 on those 4 houses. It was a bad learning lesson. So it reset me back to zero. I was still working in the casino, fortunately, so I was still bringing in money. So I was still able to eat and, do what I pay for my living expenses. But I was like, I had no more money for real estate. So I literally Googled how do wholesalers get deals, and freaking Sean Terry popped up. And I bought his course, and that was kind of the introduction into my whole real estate journey. So
how long ago did you do that? Like buy the course?
So back in 2000, the beginning of 2017, because it was towards the end of, so it was the middle of 2017, because towards the end of 2016 is when I bought that first house. And so it was somewhere in the middle of the end of 2017 is when I bought the Sean Terry course. Then I ended up joining his mastermind. It was a mastermind called Boardroom. I know most of you guys are familiar with that mastermind. And then, I've been paid him for some one-on-one coaching, stuff like that. And kind of been, going since then, so.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So what year did you leave from being a dealer?
Good question. So when I joined Boardroom, Sean Terry made me do a promise, or I would leave the casino industry at the end of 2018, or I had to pay $15,000 into a charity of his choosing. And he made me swear in front of the whole mastermind. And so it's funny because at the end of 2018, I was still unsure if I was going to leave. I was like, oh man, I still have a good job. I could do this job on the side and do real estate at the same time. And I was very like, it's uncomfortable thinking about leaving what I'm, what's been feeding me for this whole last 17 years. But it was funny. I went to Vegas at the end of 2018 with my one of my other casino friends. I went ice skating on top of I can't remember what casino it was. One of the casinos has an ice skating rink around Christmas. Well, I went ice skating. I fell down and broke my wrist. So literally it was a sign from God going, hey, punk, you need to leave the casino and act on your promise. So I broke my wrist. I was like, I couldn't deal. So I could have gone on FMLA and, for 3 months and let it heal and gone back to dealing. But I saw as a sign from God. I was like, all right, came home and put my notice into the casino that I'm leaving. And that was what so I was able to make good on my promise. But I was unsure, man. I don't know if I would have left the casino, and I probably would have paid that $15K to the charity if I wouldn't have broke my wrist. So it was like, yeah. Yeah. And that was the end of 2018. So 2019, I was full-time into real estate.
And you were doing local, right? You were just focusing on Phoenix to start with.
Correct.
And you were doing a lot of like traditional transactions, right? You had a like a brokerage.
No, I did become licensed. So I'm a licensed realtor here in Arizona. And the only reason why I got licensed was because I was like, well, when I list my flips, I can capture that 3%. I don't have to give away my commission. So it was one of the better things I've done in my real estate journey. I learned, contract law. I learned how the languages of realtors and brokers, which is really, come into play now that I'm doing these nationwide novations, it's really come into play. But so no, we were still just doing the fix and flips, and then wholesaling, and then I was listing my own flips with my license. So that was kind of how the beginning started out.
So what made you, from being in Arizona, right? As we, a lot of us teach. I know you're nationwide now, but previous to that, we would teach, or I won't speak for everyone else. Like it's sometimes better to be narrow, focused in a market, dominate, get wins, all of them things. So at what point are you like thinking, okay, I'm in Arizona, I'm doing deals. What was the tipping point, or what was your decision to go nationwide originally? Like,
good question. So, I scaled up the local model to like 5 to 10 deals a month. And at that point, we're doing a bunch of cold calling. I actually created a call center in my living room. So I put a bunch of cubicles in my living room, and I hired college kids to come in and cold call for me in my house, locally. And so I was constantly on the road all day long, going to belly to belly with all the sellers. And I had this call floor cranking out of my living room, bringing me in leads to close. And what the switch was is I was having a hard time scaling past that. It was that 5 to 10 deals a month, just kind of, I was making money, but I just couldn't scale past it. And by being involved in all these masterminds that I'm in, I started meeting people who were doing the nationwide model. One person that you guys probably know is Nick Perry.
Yeah.
And I became really good friends with him. And then Sean Terry also moved over to the nationwide model. And he actually called me up and asked me to be part of his mastermind. And so I started, just hearing about it from other people and masterminds. I was like, okay, maybe this is a solution to really scaling. Now that I got the local model down, let's try turning on the gas and going nationwide. And so we did that in the beginning of last year. Made a huge mistake. I would never recommend anybody turning on a nationwide model and turning off what they're doing locally. That's paying the bills, right, and keeping them fed. And that's what I did, man. I moved into an office. I got rid of the call center, and I turned on PPC and did this whole nationwide model. And we didn't know how to move deals nationwide, and I didn't know how to run PPC very well. So literally, I ran deep in the red for 3 months. The first month, I lost $70,000 because of payroll and PPC. We couldn't move deals. The second month was like $50,000, and then $30,000 I lost. And then we started catching some traction and started running in the green. But it was tough, man. If I didn't have some money that stashed away in the bank, I would have went bankrupt. I had a lot of sleepless nights, and that's because I turned off my local model. So I recommend anybody who is flirting with going nationwide, do not turn off what's already working. Keep that going, and then just make this a small arm of your business and slowly scale it up as you're learning it. So,
yeah. Well, it goes back to you going all in, I guess, right?
Sometimes, man, I hurt myself by.
Yeah. But I guess, you live and learn, and that's why, I know you're teaching, as well now, but these are the experiences that we all have. And this is what we give to all of our clients that work with us, because we're making these mistakes. And now you've just given solid advice. Don't do it, because here's why. It costs you 150 grand learning curve over 3 months, because that's what you did. So when you teach it, as you've just dropped there, don't do it. And here's why. So that's really good. It's good.
And always start in your backyard, man. I recommend that to everybody who's starting out. You need to learn your own market and learn how to talk to these sellers belly to belly. You need to learn how to do the local model first, in my opinion, then try to go nationwide. I think the nationwide is becoming really trendy now, and a lot of newbies are trying to do it. Yep. And that's tough. You need to learn how to do this business in your own backyard first, and then start working on adding in other markets.
Absolutely. And there's one thing, with like the nationwide, like you've really got to be good on the phone. Like you need to be a closer.
You do.
And I think that's the problem with the newbies, is that when you're all of a sudden 1 minute in California, then you're in Kentucky, then you're in Ohio, then you're in Michigan, and you're back to Phoenix, all in 5 different leads, you've got to be able to speak to people different, understand the not the culture, but the way that they act, right? Just like a New Yorker versus a Southern in Alabama versus a California. You've got to be able to adapt to lock deals up. So again, really, really good advice. So you went to the nationwide model. You start, then you pick it up, you get traction, you're doing PPC, and then the Novation stuff comes along, right? And I started to go, it was probably from you, to be fair. I'm like, what is going on? Everyone's talking about this Novation stuff, right? And agreement. And we've kind of, I don't know if Don's done any. I haven't. I don't know if Dave's done any either. I don't think he has. So we haven't done, and we've talked about it. And it's through obviously being in masterminds and, talking with you. So tell us, I'm interested, and sorry guys if I'm dominating these questions here, but I'm really interested because we've not had anyone on this show talk about Novation. We get the question and we answer it as best as we can, but we're not doing it. So we're like, hey, we think it works like this, but give us a rundown. Like, what is it? How's it work? Like, let's break it down. And
for sure. And I'll start with a little bit how I kind of got into it. So one of the pain points we had going nationwide, especially with the way I do PPC, is we were getting a lot of these leads that were rural. And we'd get them, you know, for pennies on the dollar, but we were having problems selling them because there was no investor activity or not very much investor activity in that market. But there was MLS activity. So it was like, man, how do I move these deals that are in rural areas that we can't get investor buyers on? And so I was literally in a mastermind, and I was out in Florida. It was the 7-figure wholesaling mastermind with Joe Dillon. And I was in that mastermind. There was a guy named there, Gabe Garcia. I'll give him credit because he's the first one that ever introduced me to this model. And he was talking about how he made like 2.2 million last year, and over 1 million of that was novations. And he presented it in his whole presentation. And I was like, what the heck is this? And just from his presentation, the lights went on in my head. I was like, oh my God, I could apply this to my nationwide model, and it would fix the pain point of these rural deals that there's MLS activity in, but there's not a lot of investor buyers. So what I did is, after I learned it from him, I was like, well, I want to reach out to other people in the industry who are doing this to see if I can kind of pick out pieces of how this works. And I did. So there's another guy named by Eric Brewer who's doing it. Corey Boatwright's doing it. A guy named Richard out of Tennessee that's doing it. So I went and literally learned from all these different people, picked out a piece that I liked, and compilated my own little, setup of how I do these nationwide novations. So, and it has been amazing because you're able to lock up deals for higher cents on the dollar. So you're able to pay more for your properties. Where a lot of these leads people are just throwing away, or they might be pitching, creative financing like seller carry or sub 2, where the novation model works well for them, and they're able to receive their money in 2 to 3 months instead of over like 10, 20, or 30 years. And so we're able to lock up deals that are tighter, and then we're able to move deals in markets that, you don't have investors in, because you're using the MLS as your main buyer pool. And as we all know, MLS is the biggest buyer pool in the United States, right? This is like how I sell my fix and flips. And so it fixed a lot of pain points in our business on the nationwide model. And so now, I mean, every deal that comes across our plate, like my sales agents are instructed, you need to get novation paperwork on every single deal. So that way in the dispo room, we'll decide exactly how we're going to dispo the deal, whether we're going to, sell it just for cash, or maybe we might sell it for cash or conventional, depending on how many repairs that we got to do. Or if it's a really good house, we'll sell it for cash, conventional, FHA, and VA financing on the MLS. So it has fixed a lot of issues in our company. So I think I'm one of the first ones doing it nationwide, but I'm definitely not one of the first ones who really, really implemented the model and perfected it. So
let's say then you get a seller in a rural market. So it is the way that it actually works. You don't take ownership of the property. Are you kind of JVing with the seller?
Sort of.
To dumb this down and keep it super basic.
The best way to dumb it down the most is think about it like wholesaling without taking ownership. That is really the dumbest way you could think about it in your head. So what you're doing is you're getting your purchase contract with the seller like normal, and then you're getting a novation agreement signed by the seller, which is it's going to hold you harmless, hold the seller harmless, and instructs title exactly what you're doing legally. And then you get an attorney in fact. A lot of the other guys teach power of attorney. We don't do power of attorneys, they're way too threatening for the seller, but we do an attorney in fact, which just gives us the authorization to list the property in the MLS and sign on the seller's behalf. So you're getting the purchase agreement, the novation agreement, the attorney in fact, and then you're able to list the property. And then once you get a buyer in place, then you're going to replace the contract. So novation means replacement of contracts, where an assignment, you're staying in the middle. You're assigning the rights of the AB contract over to the investor, who is taking the rights of the contract over. Where novation means the replacement of contracts. You're replacing the AB contract with the BC contract. So then people are like, well, how do you get paid then? So we replace the contract, and then we record what's called a notice of interest in the property, which puts a lien on the property. And that's how we get approved through the financing contingencies, because any loan lender will not approve an assignment, but they will always approve a lien payoff. A mortgage is a lien payoff. A mechanic's lien is a lien payoff. So you're just attaching a lien to the property, and then when you go to close, you ask the title company, hey, title, what does it take to zero out the HUD down to the penny? And they'll tell you, well, there's $28,782.53 to zero out the HUD, and that is going to be your fee. So then you do a release of interest, with that fee attached, and then they record the release at closing, and it's approved by the financing, and it's beautiful. So,
are you having to educate the title companies and the attorneys?
oh my God, that has been a big
this?
pain point in our company.
Yeah, that's what I imagine is a nightmare nationwide. Like, how do you even get to understand this?
I feel like it was what wholesaling was 20 years ago. Nobody knew what an assignment was, and there's still some title companies that don't even know what an assignment is. It's like, oh, how do you not know this now? Novations is even more so because nobody's practicing this model, so you really have to get the title company on board. We have a couple title companies that we use. We really went all in on one title company, and we got in bed with them, and I sent them literally almost 40 deals, and they screwed up everything. And
man, I heard you reaming this guy at the event in Miami about 2 weeks ago. I was like, man,
it was frustrating.
That guy, Corey, is going to town on him right now.
Was he there?
Yeah, he was there, but I mean, Corey
awesome.
wasn't being like an a-hole. He wasn't being like overly aggressive or rude, but he was giving him a piece of his mind because this guy needed to hear it. You know,
he did. I mean, we lost 100. Yeah, we lost 150
and then he wasn't able to fulfill on that. So it was just like, dude, what the hell? So
and they took off more than they could chew, bit off more than they could chew, right? Because one of our friends, who's a pretty big wholesaler here, he's a nationwide wholesaler. He was using them, and they worked really well for him. So he started recommending them to all his friends, and so he's got a pretty big network. And so like they just got bombarded with deals. And I literally got on the phone with the owner, and I broke down the Novation model to him, and he's like, "Yeah, we approve that. You can do that in all 50 states. Go ahead." And so like I was like, "Oh, great! I got a title company that gets my model, and they're all 50 states." And I started bombarding them with deals, and they just dropped the ball, and we lost probably $150,000 last month from this title company. So it's been a nightmare. There are other title companies that are Novation friendly. Just off the top of my head, Clothesline Settlements will do it. Blueprint Title will do it. But now we're working with a third-party transactional company who is direct to First American, and they'll be conducting our Novation deals this point moving forward. So
I want to mention your pain point about this title company. I believe how the story went is somebody asked them if they would take on more business. And they basically said yes. And then everybody in the room who had issues with the fact that they were buried right now kind of blew up on them for that. And I just want to point it out because that's a lot of us in this business as investors, wholesalers, rehabbers, we want to take on more and we want to grow, but we got to grow right as a business. And that was the issue with the title company is they weren't growing right. They were just saying, feed me, feed me, feed me, even though they didn't have the resources or the infrastructure to support it. And that's a major mistake that a lot of businesses make. And it's a cautionary tale because even as real estate investors, we do that. We get in over our heads. And
I do it.
That's fastest way to destruction sometimes. So something to look out for.
Scaling too quick, man. Yep. You scale yourself right out of business.
Yep. Which happens to a lot in our industry, period. When even from a coaching level, when they take on too many clients and then they can't deliver from doing too many deals, it doesn't matter what it is that you have to know your limit, or otherwise your reputation, as quick as it grew, it bums twice as fast. So,
right. And then you go bankrupt and it's like,
yeah, absolutely. Would you say then, Corey, back to obviously, starting your backyard, would you say that this is the right move for the Novation stuff as well, in terms of getting to know a title company, get them on board with the way that this works, start doing deals locally, and then again, start to branch out?
120%. Even on Novations, dude, my first 3 deals were here local, even though we're doing a lot of the nationwide stuff. But I understood real estate, right? I understood it, local. I understood it nationwide. So it was easy for me to transition nationwide with Novations. But first, I told my team, listen, I want to do this Novation thing, but only lock up Novations here locally. And like our first 3 deals we did, was here locally, and I understood it. It worked. It was proof of concept. My local title company was on board for doing it. They got the job done. And it's like, okay, let's try it nationwide now. So
let me ask you, because so my thought is you're putting on the MLS, right? I'm assuming you got to put a lockbox on the property. Realtors got to be able to schedule showings. Yep. How do you deal with the homeowner in that aspect of it? Because I mean, if they're usually if they're
so
going for a
it
cash
goes right along
transaction.
with Matt's question here. You know,
Yeah.
why would they not just list with the realtor?
Exactly.
What extra value are you providing with the Novation? That's a great question, Matt.
So we'll start with that. And I hope it'll answer Don's question too. So what we are is we call it our concierge service. It's our white glove service. So basically our leads, they're calling us because they want convenience. That is exactly why they want a cash offer. They don't want to deal with the on-market stuff, the realtors, the inspection, the appraisals, the title company. They don't want to deal with it. They want convenience. So we let them know, say, yeah, Mr. Seller, you obviously can go list it with the realtor. We do the same thing on our wholesale. We push them towards that objection. You can go list it with your sister. That is perfectly fine. But understand, then you're going to have to deal with the realtor. You're going to have to deal with the inspection. You got to deal with any repairs that they come up in the inspection, which we take care of. And all the title, the appraisal, and any showings that you're going to have to do to the property. So what we do is we are very transparent with the seller and let them know we are going to need walkthroughs. And if it's a problem, if there's a tenant there or if the seller is living there, we'll let them know that we can group the walkthroughs, together. But even in our wholesale, we have to show the house. Like, it is very difficult for us to sell a house as is sight unseen, unless you're selling it super deep. You can sell it super deep and get it sold, but it's the same thing with Novations. We're being very transparent that we're going to need the walkthroughs to show the property to our partnered buyers that we're partnering with. And so we're just very transparent with them. And we let them know that we take care of all the realtors. We handle all the showings. We let them know that we take care of all the inspections. So any repairs that come up in the inspection process, we are taking care of the appraisals, and we're handling the title company. We let them know that all they got to do is sign some additional paperwork, work with us on getting some walkthroughs, and they can just sit back and collect their check. So the service we're providing is the concierge service, white glove, that they don't have to do anything with the on-market stuff, with the retail side of the transaction. We're going to handle most of it for them. And most of the times they're going to net somewhere close to where they would have netted working with a realtor anyways. Maybe a little bit less, but it's not by much. So we're offering the white glove service and getting them pretty close to a retail, sell price, or at least a little closer to a retail sell price than a cash offer. So, and not all your prospects are going to go. Some of your prospects are still going to go off and list it with a realtor, but it's the same in wholesale. You know what I mean? How many times you call back a lead and they're like, "Oh yeah, I already listed that property last week." It's the same thing here.
Lots of times.
Same thing here. They're going
Matt
to
says
other options.
you also have to pay the realtor who shows it. I would imagine.
Absolutely.
Imagine that you do. I mean, in some way, shape, or form. Are you able to negotiate that out, or how are you doing that so you're not paying crazy fees?
Great question. So we figure in, we call it our junk fees. We figure in the seller side of the realtor, the buyer side of the realtor, and the title fees. These are junk fees that you're going to have, and the projected inspection repair costs that you're going to have to take out, and then you take out your fee, and that's your Novation offer. So yes, we pay realtors. So, and I'll give you a little secret on our on the buyer side, when we're listing the properties, we list them for 3.5% because we want the buyer's realtors to show our properties. We want to incentivize them. If there's another lookalike property to our property, we want them showing our property first. So we incentivize them a little bit more than the industry standard. On the selling side, we used to do the flat fee listing. That became brain damage. It does not work very well. There's a lot of sticking points that happens when you use a flat fee listing company. For one, they have to call into the flat fee listing company to get connected to your dispo manager. Two, if the office is closed, it goes to a voicemail. And three, they can't navigate you through the retail process in that local market, which you don't understand because you don't work in that market.
You want that agent to do all that work for you.
You need an agent and then they become literally your employee. Now they're scheduling the showings. They're getting additional pictures. They're helping you with the inspections. They're making sure everything is hitting on the timeline for that retail transaction in that market. We don't understand all the different processes that go into that market and how they conduct retail transactions because we only work retail in our local market. So we pay both sides of the realtors. On the selling side, only 2 to 2.5%. Because we're bringing them the deal on a silver platter, and we don't have to incentivize them as much as the buyer realtor. But then the buyer realtor at 3.5% is what we're paying them. So you just got to make sure you figure all those fees in before you're making your offer, because you got to know where you kind of stand.
And that comes out of your number, not the seller's
Absolutely.
number. Right. Okay.
Yep. When you're negotiating with a seller, that's a net number to them.
Got it.
And that
That's
number,
another-
just like any other contract, that stays. Whenever you negotiate,
That's staying.
that
When we're
stays.
doing-
So whatever you spread or sell over that is you.
Correct. Whatever our spread, all our fees come out of. If we got to do a price drop on the MLS because we priced it too high or we thought it was too, you were going to get more. That's coming out of our fee. So we're backing all that out. So we're trying to stick to the net number we negotiate with the seller with, and that's another reason why they like speak over a realtor, because with a realtor, it's kind of like, well, here's what we can list it for. You know, you're going to have all these fees, and hopefully we can land somewhere in this area. We're saying, hey, here's your net number that you're going to walk away with from the closing table. We're going to take care of everything else.
Have you ever had one not work? Sorry, Gavin. Have you ever had one not work out where you've had to go back to the seller and change their number or cancel the
Absolutely, bro.
transaction? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. You're going to have to do that.
I'm just curious. I know the answer is yes, but I want
Yeah,
There's a lot of
no,
failure
great
along the
question.
way in any
Great
business.
question.
Yeah, when you do anything on volume, you're gonna mess shit up.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
You just mess it up. I mean,
So
you go ahead.
I was to say, so for people who are scared to renegotiate their contracts, stuff like that, how does that conversation go?
You go back and you with your tail tucked between your legs, and you let them know you made a mistake, and that a lot of times it happens because the repairs are too much. That the homeowner and you and the homeowner in the conversation, it wasn't fully conversated to us, that we were disclosed to us that there's gonna be this much repairs, and so that's usually where the big negotiation comes from, and you just let them know exactly why you're renegotiating. You say, hey, like we talked about, we're partnering with an end buyer, bringing them to the table to basically buy this property, and the market's telling us that where we're priced at is not the correct price. We underestimated the repairs, or maybe the upgrades that you said you had in the house are not really what's current. And so you're just having a very heart-to-heart exactly why you're in that price correction. About 50% of the time it works. It's the same like in wholesaling. And the other 50% of the time they're going to go tell you kick rocks. So but it happens a lot less in novations than it does in wholesale. We were doing a lot more renegotiation on the nationwide wholesale model than we do in novations. Okay. But it's going to happen.
What's your percentage now in your business from wholesale to novation, would you say?
I would probably say 80% of our deals are novation now.
Wow. That's
crazy.
wild. That's wild. Hey, Corey, can you tell us a little bit about the process with the transaction coordination company as well as the title company? Like you had mentioned in the past that you were working with one that could do national, and it's been kind of a mess. Are you still working with that company?
No.
Or are you using, so you're not, okay. So are you using a transaction company and then they go find the title company and manage that for you? Or are you still having to do both of those things?
No, so great question. So basically these nationwide title companies, they're third-party title companies, and they all use First American or Fidelity. They're using whoever directed source is. And so we found a transactional company. And in fact, they did a presentation at the RE3 Mastermind. David, you saw him there. David Olds is his name. If anybody's interested in using them, you can hit me up. I could put you in touch with their company. And they're direct to the source. They're going to First American and Fidelity. They're going to help you pull title up front, make sure there's no liens, judgments, or if there's free and clear title, and help you with any lien payoffs. And they'll coordinate with the seller for you. They'll actually be calling the seller once a week, so they handle the file, checking in with the seller, and then making sure that if there's any steps the seller needs to take, they will be having those conversations with the seller on your behalf. So they're literally handling the file. It got rid of 2 positions in my company because I had a transaction coordinator and I had a file handler, and it's gotten rid of both of those positions for me. Now we just started with them, so it's new, but they do understand the novation model and they get it. And so they're gave us the green light to conduct novations through them, and they're going to use directly the First American to pull title and to get the closings done. So
nice. You don't have to have a closing coordinator or transaction coordinator anymore. And you had a file person as well.
Yep.
Which I would imagine dealt with mostly the title company, right?
The file handler was just there on the phone all day because at one point we had 62 deals on the board, and she was just there following up with the sellers all day long, orchestrating, signings, orchestrating if we need to get, a quick claim deed, or maybe a death certificate, or, trying to track down heirs or whatever it may be. That's all her sole job was in the company, was just handling that file. Once the acquisitions department hands the baton off to us, I don't want them following up the seller. I want the acquisitions just closing deals. Once that deal's closed, the baton gets handed off to the disposition side, and then we keep that relationship going with the seller. So with this new transaction company helping with that, literally my disposition would only have to be calling the seller for like walkthroughs, or maybe even the local realtor or whoever, we're working with. So we don't have to be chasing them down to get, death certificates, heirs, a probate done, whatever, all the kinks that come into deal structuring at the, when you're in the transaction process. They will be helping with that.
Got it. So you could build a nationwide wholesaling business with an acquisition person and a disposition person, and that person could essentially do both if the volume is low. But ideally, you have one person to do each, and then you have easy REI closings or a company similar.
That's who it is. Yep.
Yeah, that can handle the transaction coordination, and that's it, right? I mean, you don't really need to have a crazy massive team.
Not until you're trying to scale, right?
Yeah, until you have those people are busy and you need help with those jobs,
right.
Of course.
And I would never
recommend that approach. You don't have to have all these extra people. It's
correct.
Not necessary.
And I still don't recommend like you just handling the file off to easy REI and then forgetting about it. It's still your responsibility to make sure that deal gets pushed to the closing table. Because at the end of the day, what does it affect? It affects your paycheck, right? You still have to take the responsibility to follow up with easy REI closings, making sure they're doing their job, and still be in touch with the seller, at least periodically. And you're going to have to be anyways for showings, because easy REI closings, it's not going to schedule walkthroughs for you, but they'll do the rest.
Yeah, got it. So your dispo person's still going to have to be in contact with the agent.
Correct.
But that's just another task. That's not necessarily a whole new role.
You really, not unless you really scale, maybe.
Yeah, maybe you'll get, that's a good problem to have. But out the gate, yeah, absolutely. But out the gate, you don't necessarily need that. Just make sure your dispo person is following up with these people all the time. And they essentially, I would imagine, will take over the follow-up with the seller once it's passed to them, or no?
Yeah. The easy REI will. Yeah, immediately as soon as you pass the file to them, they have 24 hours to make contact with that seller and start.
Okay. I think I asked the wrong question though. So your acquisitions people are the people that they're on the front lines, right?
Correct.
They're working leads that are coming in, and they're convincing the seller to work with them, and that they have the solution and they can help them, and they get the property under contract. So from there, they pass that file, and that could be digital, right? Whatever.
Yeah, it's all in the CRM.
Yeah, let's just say the file, right? They pass the file to the dispo people, and then are they right back on new leads and never talking to that person again for the most part?
100%.
Okay, that's what I was just wanting to double check.
100%.
So because I've noticed that in my own business, when there's 3 different people following up, the point of contact is like, who is that person? And then everyone's trying to loop everybody in, and it's just noise. It's just noise.
Yeah,
to the seller, this is your role now. Yeah, exactly. So take the file, move it to the dispo. The dispo then takes over with the communication. So the dispo is still working with that seller, providing them value and helping them, right? And basically trying to fulfill the agreement that the acquisitions person, has presented to them. I don't want to say promise, because that's not the game, but presented to them.
Correct.
And then you got the title company, David's company, following up as well. So there's multiple points of contact, but then that dispo person not only is following up on keeping that seller happy, but they're also trying to get other buyers and or managing an agent or both.
Correct. Working with the brokers and realtors in those local markets becomes a very heavy lift. So that has become your disposition manager. That's where his job really gets heavy, is, navigating all that paperwork, talking to the realtors. And there is a lot of paperwork that's going on with retail transactions, which is Novation. So
as you scale, let's say I start with one of each, one acquisitions, one dispositions. What would I need most likely, from your experience, would I need to hire that third person to do which role?
Probably to help with dispo.
So 2 dispos per 1 acquisition.
Which is the opposite for wholesale.
You probably could get away with 1 and 1 as long as they're both rock stars, right?
Got it.
If your dispositions are rock star and he can handle it, yeah, you're probably all right with 1 and 1, but you definitely get backloaded when you start all these files start coming over from your acquisitions that your disposition will need an assistance. So, and that's exactly what I did. I took my transaction coordinator and I moved him to junior dispo to help Sylvester with all the paperwork, doing the listings, navigating, with the realtors and talking with the sellers. So he's not so much just working on the title work and managing the title company, because now David Old's company is going to be doing that. So, but it does become paperwork heavy on the back end once you start scaling and getting a lot of deals in. I mean, yeah.
All right, hey, let's do a quick fire round. We got to catch up our viewers.
Hang on, I got one more question.
Yeah, go ahead, Don.
How do you do agent relationships? Like, how are you finding your agents in these markets and training them on what you're actually doing? The ones that are listing for you, because you're obviously not a nationally licensed agent, right?
No, that's a great question. So we find our agents the exact same way we used to find our buyers for wholesale nationwide. And you just go to realtor.com. They have all the rock star agents in that market. And we used to call all the realtors who are rock stars who's represented buyers in that market and let them know that we have an off-market deal that we're interested in selling. Can you bring us a buyer and we'll pay you a commission? And that's exactly how we used to find our buyers nationwide. And now we're doing the opposite. We're looking for agents who represented sellers who are the rock stars in that market. We call them up and basically we're giving them a deal on a silver platter if they understand and willing to work with the Novation process. You might have to call 3, 4, or 5 realtors who feel comfortable doing the process. But once you explain to them, a lot of them will understand. I remember I learned about novations in realtor school. When I went to realtor school, I remember the teacher talking about it. It's an actual thing that they teach in school, but I never thought it would be like applicable to my business one day.
Yeah. I mean, think about this, guys, think about this scenario. Your parents have a house and then they move to Florida and then, they don't necessarily want to have to come back to sell it. So they, have essentially a child, right? What could be one of us, or it could be a friend or a cousin, just handle all that stuff, right? That's essentially what's happening. We're just doing it for strangers.
Correct.
Right? I mean, am I wording that right in a way?
Yep. You got the concept right. And you got to remember, these realtors, man, they're just like us. They're out there hustling every day, and it's hard for them to get a deal.
It is. Like, they're doing the same thing we're
grinding.
Doing. Yeah, so they're grinding probably harder.
Bring them a deal on a silver platter saying, hey, I got 2.5% or maybe 3% for you right here. Just list the property and work with us, and this is exactly how we're doing. Now, some of the realtors, they'll be like, well, how do we know you're not scamming the seller? What do you mean you're going to sign on the behalf? This is where your relationship with the seller comes into play. And you can be like, listen, you can call Mr. Seller and verify that we're doing this concierge service with him and that we're working with him and that we're going to be bringing the buyer for the seller on his behalf. So feel free to call and ask him if he signed all this paperwork. And so you're bringing the seller in to help you navigate through those objections. And this is where your transparency and upfront with the seller on everything, how the process works, comes into play. And that's why I love novations too, is because of transparency. Where in wholesaling, you're trying to keep it secret that you're selling the contract. You're not letting the seller know that. And then you're trying to keep secret to the buyer how much you're making. So you have all this like gray area, and deals blow up all the time because of the lack of transparency. Now, not all wholesalers do that. There are some that are very transparent, and I give them credit because that makes their job more harder with wholesale. But in novations, it's your best friend to be transparent. You want to lay all your cards on the table for the seller and for the buyer side, and let them know exactly how the transaction is working. And so they become your friend in the process, and they help you navigate through some of those objections.
Yeah, and I'd imagine you tell the agent like, "Hey, I'm the one hiring you. You come to me with the questions,
and you let them know."
That's the whole purpose of the novation. If that doesn't work for you, I'm gonna find somebody else. They're starving for deals, right? So you just need to set the precedent with them. Like, hey, I'd love to hire you. I'd love to pay you this commission. I'd love for you to help me. But you're not the only guy out there that can do this for me. At the end of the day, you're working for me, right?
Yep, you let them know
that call the seller, by all means. but don't get any ideas because essentially I'm the one, right? Are you the one signing the listing agreement?
Yes, we are.
Because you
And
have
you
all
let
the proper
them
paperwork
know
to give you the authority to do so.
authority, right? And you
Got
let them
it.
know that their commission's being paid out of your fee. You let them know, hey, I'm the one paying you on this, not the seller. The seller, we've already negotiated their net number. We're paying the seller a net number. I'm paying your fee. So that way they
And
know.
it's not a net listing. So that's the thing you got to also let them know. We're paying them a net number.
Yep.
It's not the same as a net listing. You
Not
get the
the same.
3.5%, like you had mentioned earlier.
Yep.
We get the net as the investor in the middle, but we also have to pay the agent out of that. We probably have to pay the title company.
Repairs.
We have to pay for any of the inspection repairs, and that all comes out of the spread. So speaking of that, there's a couple questions here that I want to touch on. I
have one more, Dave. I have one more.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think this is important. So you have states like Illinois and Oklahoma who have made it either not necessarily illegal, but just much more difficult to wholesale. You have to either get a license or jump through hoops. I'm assuming that Novation is one of those workarounds in those states.
It is until they catch on and before they go, okay, this is, before a bunch of people who are doing Novations go in there and mess it up. Because
I don't think that's going to mess it up because what they're trying to prevent is agents not getting paid. Is that not why they made that?
That's one reason. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's other reasons, of course, for consumer protection. But who's behind the guys? Come on, who's behind the consumer protection? Who's lobbying that? It's the agents.
Realtors, yeah.
Duh. Yeah, so they want to get their piece. So this is a workaround that I don't think is ever going to not go away. Take it back to the example. Mom or dad moves to Florida. Mom or dad does not want to come back to Toledo or wherever the hell it is that you're watching from and sell this property. They want cousin Vinny, Uncle Vinny, whatever, to get in there and handle it. And it is such an amazing approach. So much so that I joined Corey's mastermind. I'm in, baby. Let's go. So we're launching the nationwide approach.
My man.
Novations first, just like
Novation Nation.
Says. Where's he at? He's right there. Just like Corey says, that's going to be the approach. Novation first, wholesale second.
That's all.
When it comes to the nationwide approach, we're not stopping doing what we're doing in St. Louis.
Better not.
Corey already told us that was one of the mistakes he made. Don't do that, right?
Yep. Because you're successful at that.
We learn as investors is what not to do, right?
Oh man, you just said it right there. That is key. Holy crap, that is key. Damn.
Man, I love it. I love it. All right. Did you get Don? Do you have any more last minute questions?
They're good. Go. That's fine.
I was going to say, did you actually get to finish answering that question?
Yeah. I just know that those are issues that people probably aren't even thinking about. But understand.
All of those questions.
Right.
And we're still finding issues, right? Like you're always just you have to be innovative. I mean, as entrepreneurs, we're always trying to figure out, okay, how do I get to that hurdle? You're always going to have new hurdles come up in any business, right? That especially when you try to scale it. So you just try to approach it with a very open mindset and try to figure a solution out, right? And then once you figure a solution, document it, make it part of your SOPs, know exactly how you navigate it through that solution. And that way, when it comes up again, you know how to address it.
I love it. All right, let's do sort of a fire round. Don't get too crazy, of course, here, but we don't need to spend like 10 minutes on each of these. It's just a minute or two here. What's the average spread of the Novation, man asks?
Great question. So our average spread in assignments nationwide is 17,000. Our average spread in novations nationwide is between 28 to 32,000.
Woo!
Nationwide.
Damn, that's awesome.
And not to mention, we're able to monetize a lot more leads. You know what I mean? So we're able to get more deal flow from the same amount of leads that are coming in. So it's not just these average, what we're making an average on every single deal. It's actually the deal flow that you're going to get out of the same marketing spend. And that is key. What is your ROI? What's your ACOS? What return on ad spend? That is what you got to be looking at.
So that actually leads me to a question. So what's your average time frame then? Because the wholesale usually you're anywhere from 10 to 30 days, and you've got your check. Novation, I'm assuming it takes a little longer, probably 60 to 90.
Correct. You just So you have to build that pipeline up, and just knowing that money's coming down the road. If you're in a cash crunch in your business, then just wholesale, right? You need the wholesale because you got to get money coming in quickly. And with novations, knowing that you're going to be a little bit further out. So understand that, when you get into this model that you're going to have a little time before deals start closing. But then once deals start closing, then you have a pipeline, and then you're good because once you got a pipeline of novations built up, the money starts coming in. Like you said, 60 to 90 days.
Do you have the amount, like, let's say that you get 20 contracts a month? Do you normally set, like, because this is nationwide, it is sight unseen, all of these things, are you closing at like a 50% ratio, would you say 75, 50%, something like that?
That's a good question. So on our wholesale side of things, we run about 60 to 70%. We hover in there on closings on nationwide. Local, I was doing like 95%. It's crazy. Like you close so much more locally than you do nationwide just because you just don't know what you don't know in these markets. On novations, we're over 80%.
Nice.
Got it. So Matt says, if you can't disbuild a novation, do you still close and perform based on your numbers? I would expect that answer to be no.
No.
Because you need to go back and renegotiate that price.
It's deal specific. You just gotta, if it's a really good deal and you know your numbers and then because now you're basically a fix and flipper in that virtually. You're gonna close it and you're gonna become the owner. You're gonna put in the repairs. You're a fix and flipper. You're a nationwide fix and flipper. So I have one deal right now in Wyoming that we're probably gonna do that on.
Got it. Okay. Novation is only for nationwide deals, and the answer is no.
No.
You can do this. You can do it locally as well. I mean, it's just a great
Probably
approach.
should start locally. Back to what we talked about at the start.
Please.
Is to start doing local before you do nationwide.
That's right. So Matt says, do you have to have any special clauses in the novation paperwork? And the answer is yes. And there's a lot of paperwork. And I wouldn't suggest you just try to go out and Google it. In fact, learn it from the guy that's been doing it, has mastered it. I'm sure Corey spent $30,000 to $50,000 on this paperwork.
You're a real estate
attorney. Really handing it out. I joined the group because I wanted access to not only the paperwork, but also to him. And, I promised I'm not going to go share that with everybody because it's a valuable thing. And he's building a program around that. So you definitely want to have the right paperwork. That's very important. And again,
if you don't want to
be the guy to talk to about that.
If you don't want to join a group, because I always join every mastermind and coaching thing I could possibly. I probably do too much, but if you really don't want to join a group who's teaching it, go find yourself a really good real estate attorney and spend the money on him drafting up that paperwork for you because this concept you need to have the right paperwork in place to protect you.
That's exactly right. The fee for REI closings, hit up Corey. He can get you, I think he's got a discount code he can give you or something along those lines.
Yeah, I can get you access into the...
Corey, what's your good contact information? I'll drop it in the notes here or in the comments so anybody watching can connect with you.
Yeah, so best place obviously is social media, man. Just Corey Geary on Facebook, and then it's on Instagram. It's the Corey Geary. So, and you can just private DM me. I don't have a VA in there checking them or anything. So you can just DM me and I'll respond to those DMs. So social media is always the best to contact me. I used to give my phone number out on these podcasts and man, my phone would just blow up afterwards and I couldn't get back to it.
No, social's the way to go, man. Social's the way to go. So Corey Geary on Facebook and the Corey Geary on Instagram. IG, right?
Yep. That's the best place.
I'll drop that in the chat right now, guys. So if you're watching that, you can connect with Corey. Corey can connect you with easy REI closings and get you guys a discount on that. Also, he is the man when it comes to the novations and the novation coaching. I just joined about a week and a half ago. And, man, I'm going through all the content, and it's gold, man. You got some really, really good stuff in there, helping people set up their AdWords account so they can do this nationwide. And, I mean, that's the coolest part about it, in my opinion, is – you don't need to have a big team like we just talked about earlier. You can have one person doing sales or acquisitions.
I got 6.
Yeah, one person doing dispo. But as you scale to 62 deals on the board, you don't need to have 60 people too, right? You can have 4, 5, 6 people, maybe even 2 or 3, right? I'm going to start with 2. I already have one person. I'm looking to hire one more. So if you're in the St. Louis area and I'm looking to bring people in my office, right? So if you're a good salesperson, hit me up. We can talk about that.
Let's go.
And then the coolest part, though, is that you don't necessarily need to have 14 different channels of marketing. You can turn on AdWords, and that can be your sole place to market. And if you want to, have an additional marketing channel like cold calling or SMS or Facebook or whatever, that's fine, of course. But you don't need to. It can literally be as simple as AdWords, 1 or 2 people in the office, including you, or maybe not even including you. and boom, and you can scale up accordingly. And I just think it's such a cool business model because we've all been on this call here. We've all been flipping houses for years and years and years. And it's like, why am I limiting myself to 30 miles from where I'm standing?
Right.
You know, like everything is virtual these days. Everything.
And
So
I
it's
love
like if somebody
AdWords.
hits me up with a good deal and, you know, Bangladesh, I mean, if it's a good deal, I'm interested to figure out how we can flip that thing, you know?
And
Really no
AdWords
reason
is
not to.
So easy to scale.
I might even have to go check it out. You know, it's just a reason to go on a trip with Don and Gavin. Corey,
you'll be able to get a word in a minute.
Oh,
That's awesome.
I love it. I love it. I love
Corey,
it.
what was you going to say?
I was just saying, AdWords is so easy to scale versus other marketing channels. Thinking about scaling cold calling and SMS or RVM or something crazy like that. You have to pull new data, new lists, skip trace that data, get new team members or employees or a third-party company to cold call that list. And you got to do that for every single new market. AdWords, you go in there and you push a button.
I just want to say that with that button push, you need to make sure that you find somebody that teaches you how to set things properly, or you're working with somebody to set things properly, because that button can be a very expensive button.
That's again, he said 70,000 loss, 30,000 loss, and so on.
Yeah.
Right? So it can be an expensive
code. It's a great marketing channel to scale.
But Corey, you said it earlier, though. You know, like start small and scale up. Don't stop what you're doing at your current marketing methods in your current market, right? So there's no reason to go do 10, 15, 20 grand a month out the gate. You know, like start with a couple thousand. And then as the leads start coming in, then scale it up slowly.
That's it.
So, you know, I love that approach.
And work with people who can give you good advice, and you don't have to figure it out yourself. That's it's a very look. If in this situation, if it's an AdWords situation, you're trying to decide, do I pay for education or I just try to figure it out? I guarantee you the education is going to be a hell of a lot cheaper. I guarantee it.
Yeah, Don, that is a good point, man. The education,
and that goes for doing novation agreements as well. At that,
right.
Again, we've touched on it, but this even in my head in real estate, like it's a lot of work, right? And you'll know how I work. I'm like, okay, cool. How do I find a Corey to go? Hey, look, let me bring you deals. Let's partner, right? Like that's where my mind goes originally. I don't need to know all this, but let me get some a lead that's kind of on that way, and then bring someone in to help me get through it and partner on it. That's where my head goes immediately on this. But
yeah, we do that with our mentees all the time. You know what I mean? So we partner with them on that to help them make sure they get through the transaction process. So,
man, awesome. I absolutely love it. Corey, thank you so much for coming on. You've been on Coffee with Closers, right? Don's sending me messages being like,
I was on your podcast.
That's
what been on Coffee with Closers.
Doesn't matter. We still love you, buddy.
Yeah,
we're still happy you're here.
It's we see each other everywhere all the time. We start to think, we do this or that. Yeah,
we do see each other all the time.
I'm always happy to get to chat with all of you guys. Corey, I got my plunge tank coming probably in the next. I'm hoping 2-3 weeks, give or take. So we're gonna have to do some fun stuff.
Some challenges.
I'm excited, man. Yeah, getting out of your comfort zone just helps you grow in so many ways in your life. And that's really my goal with it. All the health stuff's going to just be an ancillary benefit. But it's like, I just want to get in there and get uncomfortable. Then I'm going to jump out of that thing and I'm going to get even more uncomfortable with my business and my life and just take it to the next freaking level.
That thing is amazing, bro. The endorphins and adrenaline you get when you come out of the tank is like, you could conquer the world.
I can't wait, brother. I'll keep you posted. Well, guys, thanks for coming. Thanks for watching. Hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Corey, thanks for coming on the show today. We're grateful for you.
Appreciate it.
Your information, your time, all things, Corey, man. We really, really appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching. Signing off. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.